Ollie, this is what a woman's fertility looks like after a certain age.
So?
So I would like you to be the first to know I'm having a baby.
You're pregnant?
Nope, not yet, but I'm working on it. Went to the doctor. She said all my levels are really great, considering. And she said that my cervical mucus is gorgeous, by the way.
Thanks for that.
And then she started giving me this lecture about my age, and I was really started to thought to myself, I can do this. I've got a, killer new job at the network, and I don't need a man to have a baby.
Technically speaking, you do. Where's all this coming from? Is this about Paul? Because if it is, why don't you just chalk it up as another
So
one
you
of
have
your
this RT Poseidus. She's a scientist, leftist, sounds like a feminist, single mom, who has this new book out called like a Virgin, and I guess she's basically breaking down the future of parenting, single motherhood, solo parenting, creating children for gays and lesbians. Basically, her book it also illustrates the concept of male disposability in the future. One of the problems with this technology she's trying to use using stem cells is that they're only going to be able to create more girls. So they're creating children without men, and they can only create girls because they would have to use an artificial Y chromosome. Men have an XY, women have an XX, and I guess the way this system is set up for the future, it's focused on using a XX, no Y. You would have to use an artificial Y. So the reality is that men aren't going to be being made through this process either. But we talk about single motherhood and single parenting from the point of view of the chick who, the single mother by choice. And we always hear this conversation about, well, where's the father? Where's the father? As if there's so many dynamics on why he's not there. He could be incarcerated. He could be dead. He could not know he has children. There's a whole bunch of reasons why, but that's the number one deflection that we always hear from when we have this conversation about single motherhood, which seems to be a difficult conversation to have because all the feelings and emotion gets involved, and all the exceptions to the rule stand up trying to block the conversation. But okay, we look at the dynamic of the single motherhood by choice, and we look at how bad it is in like the black communities or any community that's impoverished, and we look at the connections between those scenarios and poverty and lack of education. But now, just imagine though the future of America looking like that community, looking like a society full of single women or lesbian women having children without no men involved. And the media ignores the domestic violence between lesbian couples as if it doesn't exist, but we know that's a problem. And in fact, New York, when we passed the gay marriage law, the state passed it without asking the people of the state to vote on it. One of the couples that got married, there was only New York has 19 million in the city, 19 million in the state, 11 million in the city, and there was only not even 1,000 gay marriages from people who live in New York State. People came from abroad, but one of those couples already got a divorce. So it's just odd to me that leftists keep saying that, the children out of these situations come out perfectly fine and yada, 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 but there's no data to prove any of that stuff. They're just saying it just to say it, and they ignore the domestic abuse or the fighting between lesbian couples in particular. But anyways, we talk about this concept of single motherhood from that point of view, but there's a new form of single motherhood which this scientist chick is promoting, and it's part of the leftist ideology. Liberals promote single motherhood, particularly because it's not just about single motherhood, but it's about the other forms of parenting, and in their redefinition of the family, they have to include the affluent woman who wants to have kids because she's single and she has money. And we see that a lot now. We have a lot of college-age women graduating who feel as if they don't see marriage anytime soon. They might not have time because of their careers. So out of their selfish desires, they think they want to fill that void. So I'll just have a baby now, not thinking about whether or not a man's going to want to be with you when you have a child that either you went to a sperm donor, or you adopted someone else's kid. Women don't think about, well, is there going to be a problem? And I have a story about that where it shows you that it was a problem. and a video I'll do titled "Females Redefining Their Rejection." But so you do have that dynamic. So the problem I have with that is you see the struggles and the problems that a lot of poor people have with being single parenting, and how the dynamics affect society as a whole when you have the state paying for a lot of these issues. So the problem that we ignore is that these women who claim or think that because they're financially stable, they can do it without a man. So basically, a male's contribution is only financial. None of the fathering, the mentoring, the things that uh, in the black community, black women say are lacking. We have a whole part of the leftist culture saying, well, we don't need that. Women can do it without men anyways. So either way, it's like, come on. You're saying that where are the fathers at, where the fathers at, yet leftists promote single parenting or women doing it by themselves because that's a form of empowerment for them, and they're being liberated from men, period, which illustrates male disposability. So you have the dynamic of single motherhood from this aspect that leftists are promoting, and what happens when that chick, the kid comes out sick, or she gets hurt, or she gets sick, and even though she thinks because she has money or she is financially stable, she loses that ability, and now she's in danger of being in the same predicament as the standard, poor, impoverished single mother who is not a victim but a volunteer in most cases. And I'm going to do videos about that as well. But it's crazy too how in her book, Like a Virgin, she breaks down the future of sex, and how procreating it will be possible without even having sex. And it reminds me of that scene in Judge Dredd where he was trying to have sex with the female character, and she was like, we don't do it like that no more. But the book brought me to that in the future. And if you think about that movie too, it was most of the more alpha type males went underground. The men above ground were more passive. Not, I wouldn't even call them beta males. They were like zeta males. Like they were just emasculine, wimpy dudes, and they had the church state religion where they had the one dude who was ruling over everybody, made all the rules. But it's basically, if you look at it, it's like that movie is a prediction of what would happen if leftists ruled the world. They didn't have sex anymore. Procreation was done in labs. I just thought about that after watching this little clip of the show when they were talking about the future of sex, and how leftists encourage using scientists to play God and do a lot of weird things. But the future of single motherhood is, they're not going to be able to use that excuse anymore of where's the father, because they're purposely creating children without fathers, and they're trying to make that normal and make that the new normal or acceptable. So again, this deflection that people constantly use of, well, where's the father at, is not going to be able to be used in the future at all, because they're purposely having kids without fathers. And let's be honest, I'll do another video where I'll read something that I saw on Facebook from two chicks that I went to. One I went to high school with, one I went to grammar school with, and they're both, one is a single mother. Both of them have two children, and she's not married to the father of her second child, so she's a single mother as well. But the one was basically admitting that she did it by herself. She bragged that she did it without public assistance and help. But it's like, you do have young females who are choosing motherhood knowing that the father, and she's going to be doing it by herself, put it that way. So I don't, in most cases, I see that dynamic. I don't see this, we were in a committed relationship and we were married, or a long-term relationship, we had goals and dreams, and then he just abandoned his family and walked out. No, I more often see people being sexually responsible to people, and the woman with the most options not using any of them to stop parenting because she wanted to be a mother, and either she knows that the system will take care of her, help her out if she needs it, or she knows she can get the state to go after the father and make him provide financially, which has nothing to do, again, with the aspect of fathers being fathers and mentoring and nurturing and teaching their children responsibility. That aspect is still absent from there as well. So you can't, keep deflecting where the father is when you have Hollywood movies promoting single motherhood. You have the Tina Fey in Knocked Up, where she was the affluent white woman who wanted to have babies, and she couldn't do it. She didn't have a guy, so she went to the you know, in vitro, or you had the movie Switch with Jennifer Aniston, same concept. So you have this dynamic being promoted, and you think that other women don't look at that and say, well, if they can do it, why can't I? But the problem is when they do it, they need help and assistance. And again, I'm not saying because the females have money they should be able to do it. I think it's still wrong, and it's still going to have a negative effect on society and negative effects on those children. But I'm saying is that they're glorifying it in Hollywood, and regular chicks are going to do the same thing, and they've been doing it already. One of my coworkers was telling me about a relationship where I know that both couples, and he believes that they're not going to get married. And I'm thinking, well, why is she having kids by this dude? He thinks that she's young, she's got her career, and you know he's not ambitious enough for her, and she's just going along having kids with him, but eventually she's going to get rid of him. And I'm thinking like, well, damn. And you think about that, does happen a lot, where you see this dynamic of single motherhood by choice, not some victim who got pregnant by some dude and he just disappeared, but chicks purposely getting pregnant, having babies, and maybe she doesn't want a whole bunch of different baby fathers, so she'll choose to have these kids by one dude. But there's no, she knows it's not going to come out of anything. It's not going to be a relationship, and she knows this from day one. She knows that he might not even be able to provide or put money on his children, but she still gets to be that victim. If it doesn't work out the way she thought it would be, if it doesn't go the way she wanted it, she can still, revert back to, well, he just wasn't good enough and he ain't ish, and say all these negative things about the man, even though she knew from day one. So, getting off topic a little bit, but check out this whole discussion on a show in the UK from the BBC from this scientist chick who's promoting some weird, futuristic, anti-male science stuff. Check it out.
Written this fascinating book, Like a Virgin, how science is redesigning the rules of sex. So would this be a good thing?
Children have long been created by their fathers. It's something that's already happening. I mean, there's a new breed or type of women who are called solo parents as opposed to solo mothers as opposed to single mothers. Because these are women who are around the time of menopause, who are in good financial circumstance, who don't have partners but have lots of money. And what they're doing is getting sperm donors, egg donors if they've run out of their own, and I guess having what you could call a technological adoption. So they're giving birth to a child without a father. And I think it's really important to differentiate, because a lot of assumptions are made about the negative consequences on children who are created in this way without fathers. But those negative assumptions are extrapolated from looking at single parents who were in a marriage, who there's been the trauma of divorce and the loss of income.
That's not true. But every child has a father.
There's a Centre for Family Research in Cambridge, and they're doing some very good empirical research on all kinds of families now and looking at how children actually suffer. So,
but this idea of every child has a father. Creating a child, deliberately creating a child without a father, with two mothers, would that be beneficial? Is that a good thing for society?
This is not something everyone's going to use. So a lot of these technologies that you were talking about, generating eggs and sperm from stem cells, have been developed to help the infertile. These are women who have menopause very early in their 20s, young men and women who've had cancer chemotherapy and have their eggs and sperm destroyed. That's not to say that once the technologies are available, other people can't use them too, i.e. lesbian and gay couples. Once it's out there, that will be a possibility. But if a lesbian couple, if you're permitting, if society accepts gay marriage, then why shouldn't they have their own genetic children? I think, I have to ask my Christian colleagues here, why the Bible speaks against homosexuality, and probably one of the reasons is because there is an instruction to go forth and be fruitful, and man and man can't do that, and a woman and a woman can't do that yet. But what if they could?
It's coming soon.
Could be.
What if they could? You'd love it too. Natalie, with your partner Aisling, good morning. You run the Gay Family Web Fertility Centre. It would be wonderful for you, this, would it?
It would. I mean, since we've been running the business now for 5 years, and in that time we've helped nearly 700 couples to have children, and I'd say 85% of them would prefer the donor not to be involved at any point. So for this to happen, then the children, they wouldn't have that question of how they've been created.
So that biological connection is very important to you, and it's very important to a lot of the people who come to you.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that this is what they're always concerned about, is that what do they tell the children when they get to the age when they start asking, you know, where they came from, how they were made. And
well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And when the issue was the discussion of whether gay and lesbian couples should be able to adopt children, the importance of genetic relationship was then downplayed. And it was said that all that matters is that you have a committed couple or even a committed single person, and the relationship between the parent, the nurturing, and so on was the all-important thing. You can't have it both ways. I happen to agree that actually genetic parenting is very, very important. But I think there
you should celebrate this then, shouldn't you?
Well, I think there's several issues that we haven't talked about that as a bioethicist I'm very concerned about. We were talking about equitable distribution earlier on. Most of these lesbian women will not be infertile. And I think a fundamental question we need to ask is it appropriate that resources in a National Health Service that is supposed to be treating the sick are being used on perfectly healthy people? Even if you agree that the resources should be used in that way, I totally disagree with you about the research from the unit in Cambridge, which has been shown to be deeply flawed by the only major study that's looked at a large sample of different parenting types in the States by Mark Regnerus, published this year, that shows there is indeed deep concern for those whose primary interests is the welfare of the child, showing that children who are brought up by lesbian and gay couples do have, on 80 markers that they looked at, on 77 of them, these children did less well. They were arrested more often,
Natalie, do you want to
they
come
had
back?
more
Yeah.
depression and so on. Very worrying.
there was a big research done in America last year, and it was ongoing, where they kept coming back to the children over the 20-year period, and the children they tested that had been in a lesbian relationship were achieving better and were more
That
stable.
is precisely not so.
Well, some people will have picked up on the fact that you, if I may, you think the biological connection is very important, and yet you've helped couples have children, and I know that for some of those couples you've sent them abroad where they can have anonymous sperm.
Yeah.
So that's an acknowledgement as well that the biological connection is not important, because they will never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's simply then so that if when the child does ask, there's no answers, you know, and they just...
Well, there is an answer. I mean, if these technologies become de rigueur, and I think actually we're decades away from
You don't want the child to have answers.
But you could say that the parent of that child, your parent actually was a dead embryo. That's going to be the truth. It may be rather brutal.
I heard the pastor mumbling. And
yeah, I'm very concerned about how I think science is playing God. I pastor in Croydon, which is the most populated borough in London out of the 33 boroughs. The biggest social problem we have in Croydon, especially with young men, is that they come from fatherless homes. I cannot believe we are discussing deliberately engineering families without a father. Wow. Families need fathers. I can't believe that, without a shadow of a doubt. And, you can talk about your research. Hold on a second. You can talk about your research. Let me talk to you about real life. You have no idea the cataclysmic pain and suffering that families are going through, especially in the Afro-Caribbean communities, because there's no fathers. You have to be insane. The Croydon riots predominantly were caused by young people that came from fatherless homes.
I don't think you should assert that everyone who disagrees with you is ignorant of the real world. I think what we have to be very clear about is the distinction that Dr. Prasad made between the prospects of children from single-parent homes where they've been abandoned by fathers who are never even with the mother, or where there has been divorce or domestic violence, and the separate situation where children are brought up in a loving environment by either solo parents or indeed lesbian couples, where the established view of the research, without quoting specific studies that I've not actually seen, I'd be interested to see that one, the established view is that they do very well, that they're certainly at no disadvantage.
Let
him finish. I'll give you another opportunity.
So the liberal way of dealing with this, I think, is that people should be allowed to use technology, not on the National Health Service. No one's argued that this would be a call on the Health Service. Should be allowed to use technology to be able to reproduce, unless there is good evidence of a significant harm for the child or indeed the parents that would follow. There has not been shown to be the case. And in the case of someone who's sterile because of cancer, a young man, and wants their own biological child, if later research could derive sperm from other cells in their body safely, with no adverse consequence to the child for that man and his partner, then we should not ban it. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not talking about banning. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not talking about banning, and I totally agree with you that infertility brings a huge amount of pain. As a GP, I saw loads of it, and that deserves treatment. But what we're talking about here is people who are not infertile, but who want a child, and it's more to do with meeting their needs than bringing up or creating a child in an optimal environment.
Okay, Natalie wants to come straight back on that because that's the accusation of selfishness. Yeah. Natalie, and then I'll come to the audience. Natalie.
And it's not just gay and lesbians. I mean, two brothers or sisters might decide to, I want to create with you and take my skin cells and make sperm.
That would remain unlul under
any... Could genetic problem
but why should it remain unlawful if that's what I want?
Natalie, I give you the floor.
None of our clients have ever had any support from the NHS. They're all financially stable. And you've got to remember that these children that they are creating and having together in a loving relationship have got the stability of both parents. Those parents are what they know from the off. And that's, that's all they need, a loving, stable home. And the children are progressing as they normally would.
Right, hands up. Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to pick up on something the pastor said about fatherless homes. I've worked a lot in this part of London, and I make films with some members of the Awkward Squad and some people who've fallen by the wayside into the margins. And I was speaking to a man who'd spent 14 of his 30 years in prison, and he was giving me an interview on camera. I asked him where he thought he'd made a first wrong choice to end up where he was. And he said when he was about 8, he used to sit on his sofa and want to cuddle with his mother, and his father would not let him do that. And so it seems to me that human nature and love are the big issues underlying all this debate.
Yeah, sure.
And love, therefore, can still exist in a gay couple, just as capitalism is not necessarily a bad thing, it's what you do with it.
I think what my sister on the other side was speaking about was solo parenting. I don't know any solo parent who thinks parenting is easy.
Well, no,
parenting's
not easy per se.
Right, two people.
Rabbi Laura.
I am conflicted on this because for me the pain for lesbian couples of not being involved biologically is enormous, and I really know that. And what's good for children is happy parents. Yes. And so if this is such a divisive issue, which I know it's such a deeply painful issue, that's a problem. I have a flag which is that they're two X chromosomes, so we're producing only girls. And my concern is about that as well. But it's a very conflicting thing because the pain is ginormous for lesbian
Just confirm
couples.
that would be the case, Arati, just before Rabbi Laura continues. There would be eradication in these cases of the X chromosome, so there would be the Y chromosome, so there would be girl children.
Unless you use an artificial Y chromosome. I mean, things could be possible.
Artificial Y chromosome?
Yeah, you could create one. It's a smaller...
Sorry, Rabbi Laura, I interrupted you. Carry on.
So I think for...
Easy.
Well, no,
parenting's
not easy per se.
Right, two people.
Rabbi Laura.
I am conflicted on this because for me the pain for lesbian couples of not being involved biologically is enormous, and I really know that. And what's good for children is happy parents. Yes. And so if this is such a divisive issue, which I know it's such a deeply painful issue, that's a problem. I have a flag which is that they're two X chromosomes, so we're producing only girls. And my concern is about that as well. But it's very...
I don't know any solo parent who thinks parenting is easy.
Well, no,
parenting's
not easy per se.
Right, two people.
Rabbi Laura.
I am conflicted on this because for me the pain for lesbian couples of not being involved biologically is enormous, and I really know that. And what's good for children is happy parents. Yes. And so if this is such a divisive issue, which I know it's such a deeply painful issue, that's a problem. I have a flag which is that they're two X chromosomes, so we're producing only girls. And my concern is parents. Yes. And so if this is such a divisive issue, which I know it's such a deeply painful issue, that's a problem. I have a flag which is that they're two X chromosomes, so we're producing only girls. And my enormous, and I really know that. And what's good for children is happy parents.
Yes.
And so if this is such a divisive issue, which I know it's such a deeply painful issue, that's a problem. I have a flag which is that they're two X chromosomes, so we're producing only girls. And my concern is about that as well. But it's a very conflicting thing because the pain is ginormous for lesbian
Just confirm
couples.
that would be the case, Arati, just before Rabbi Laura continues. There would be
yes,
eradication in these cases of the X chromosome, so there would
the
be
Y.
the Y chromosome, so there would be girl children.
Unless you use an artificial Y chromosome, I mean, things could be possible.
Artificial Y chromosome.
Yeah, you could create one. It's a small...
Sorry, Rabbi Laura, I interrupted you. Carry on.
So I think for us as a society we need to look at what makes happy units of parenting, whether it's solo or whether it's two together. And this issue for lesbians is huge, but I'm also I am frightened by the technology.
Yeah.
That's the level for me of, you know, when it goes into a zone that it is so manufactured that I am scared of it.
You should go to an intensive care unit which saves babies' lives and then say you're frightened by that technology. Firstly, there's no danger of sex being eradicated by this. I think most people will still choose to have sex. It's only people who have a specific need to use this form of technology in order to have a happy family that they're biologically related to would want to use this. So I don't think we need to raise the spectre of the end of sex.
What you were saying to Natalie is also true for heterosexual couples, that when they're infertile, they tend to want to have and try everything to have their own genetic children before they look towards adoption. And I find what you say a little bit insulting, because I am a single mother, and I am not all, you can't say that all single mothers raise children and live in deprived...
Are you a single mum by choice?
No, I'm not.
Right,
but
would you prefer... Okay, that's a great question. Would you prefer the father of your child to be parenting with you, yes or no?
The father of my child has a fantastic relationship with my daughter, and in fact, there are many ways of having a family and raising to have their own genetic children before they look towards adoption. And I find what you say a little bit insulting, because I am a single mother, and I am not all, you can't say that all single mothers raise children and live in deprived...
Are you a single mum by choice?
No, I'm not.
Right,
but
would you prefer... Okay, that's a great question. Would you prefer the father of your child to be parenting with you, yes or no?
The father of my child has a fantastic relationship with my daughter, and in fact, there are many ways of having a family and raising children, and it doesn't necessitate that that person has to be a man. You have grandmothers, you have mothers, brothers, you have
being a
lesbian
single
couples.
parent, or would you rather have dual parenting? You avoided answering
Truly,
the question.
I'm very happy being a single...
Whose chat show is this?
Sorry, what's the answer?
I'm very happy being a single parent. My mother's...
That's not what I'm asking you, though.
I'm very happy being a single parent.
But
That's
would
what
you prefer...
Nikki, in other cultures, there are matrilineal cultures around the world where what you have is a... Truly, I'm very happy being a single...
Whose chat show is this?
Sorry, what's the answer?
My child has a fantastic relationship with my daughter, and in fact, there are many ways of having a family and raising children, and it doesn't necessitate that that person has to be a man. You have grandmothers, you have mothers, brothers, you have
being a
lesbian
single
couples.
parent, or would you rather have dual parenting? You avoided answering
Truly,
the question.
I'm very happy being a single...
Whose chat show is this?
Sorry, what's the answer?
I'm very happy being a single parent. My mother's...
That's not what I'm asking you, though.
I'm very happy being a single parent.
But
That's
would
what
you prefer...
Nikki, in other cultures, there are matrilineal cultures around the world where what you have is avuncular care.
What about this idea of scarring the child that we've...
Scarring how?
Well, by knowing that its parent is a dead embryo, that's a pretty scarring thing.
Charles Foster.
Its parent is a dead embryo. Why are you saying its parents are dead?
I feel that's the case. I don't know if it's the case. So you start in all rational discourse with the precautionary principle. Unless we know what the risks are, we don't go ahead with it unless there is a compelling reason to do otherwise.
I would take... No.
Let Charles finish.
Can I develop it? So what are the possible reasons for doing this technology? Well, you can imagine doomsday scenarios where there are no men left on Earth, or otherwise where you have to dispense with the need for a father. But there is going to be, for the foreseeable future, lots of semen sloshing around the planet. So that doesn't seem to be, in the short to medium term, a real reason to go down this road. Then we're dealing with questions of infertility, which raise their own specific problems. then we're dealing with two possible situations. Firstly, the lesbian couple, to which I will come, but firstly, the sole woman who decides, I want a child by myself with no man or indeed other human being involved. The only motivation for that has to be selfishness, has to be denial of relationality, has to be a desire to keep that child away from all the contaminating influences.
It could be two women, so another human being could be involved. Right. And can you not understand the desire to be biologically related to the child? And should you not applaud this? This is preferable than sending off to America for some sperm off the internet. Isn't it morally preferable?
Well, when we come to lesbian couples, there has been, as Trevor's already indicated, a great deal of effective argument by those advocating gay adoption to the effect, it doesn't matter what your biological background is, the important thing is loving parents. That now seems to be skated over in the argument which is now going on. Nobody pretends that anonymous semen donation is a psychologically easy way of conceiving children. Nobody pretends that it's ideal. Why then should one pretend that this is a better way of raising children than simple adoption, the means...
Adoption is not simple. There is no such thing as simple adoption. Let's clarify.
All these arguments that you just heard from Charles were used to argue against contraception. The precautionary principle, let's not do it unless there's a very good reason, against contraception, against allowing even adoption by single parents and gay couples. I take a different view. I say that when it comes to fundamental liberties, that is the right to reproduce, not relying on state handouts or the NHS paying for it, then the principle should be that unless there is clear evidence of harm, and there isn't in these cases, we should be permissive. We shouldn't ban people from reproducing, as you would wish to do, unless they can justify it in some way that suits you. The presumption should be the other way around.
I think there's a principle which trumps the liberty of the individual to which you refer, and that is the welfare of the child.
I agree.
We
don't need to have evidence of that harm. That's exactly my point. Woody Allen said that he didn't understand how children survived even one mother, but in fact the studies show that children with two mothers in loving lesbian households do very well. That's the point. So the evidence is good in that respect. Well, you can pick and choose.
There was a case.
It's the biggest study.
One of the solo parents that was studied, there was a case of a Christian woman, and she decided to have IVF to have her baby because she didn't have a partner, and she was Christian and believed that it was wrong to have sex outside of marriage. So she chose to have a child that way, which I think is quite a funny way to have a virgin birth.
And there we'll leave it. Thank you all very much.
I'm wondering if you would like to have sex.
With you?
Mm-hmm.
Here? Now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Great! I'll be right back.
Love boat.
We're expecting you and love. Life's sweetest reward. Let it flow.
Now just relax. We'll begin in a few seconds.
Begin what?
Having sex, of course. he broke contact.
Contact? I didn't even touch you yet.
But I thought you wanted to make love.
Is that what you call this?
First sex has been proven to produce higher orders of alpha waves during digitized transference of sexual energies.
All right, Oxley, what do you say we just do it the old-fashioned way?
Ew, disgusting. You mean fluid transfer?
I mean, boning, the wild mambo, the hunka chunka.